Friends, if we are streaming, we'll start the service in just a moment. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Michael Feshbach, delighted to be joined by Cantor Marshall Portnoy. So much of life is about getting the balance right. We want enough water. We do not want a flood. We want light and warmth, but we do not want the raging fires. How many of you who are here personally know people who have been evacuated? How many of you know people who have lost their homes? That is quite a high number of people who raised their hands. This is a tremendous disaster, which is not close to being over, whose scope we cannot possibly yet understand. I do know this. Over 300 families of the Reconstructionist synagogue in Pasadena Park have lost their homes, including the senior rabbi, the associate rabbi, and the rabbi emeritus. While the synagogue itself is safe and the scrolls were relocated. 300. On my personal Facebook page, I put a link to that synagogue. The Women of Reform Judaism is urging contributions be made through, if you remember the Women of Reform Judaism, what used to be called Sisterhood, through the Sisterhood Yes Fund. And the Union for Reform Judaism, instead of setting up a competing claim so far, a competing fund, is urging that contributions be made to the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles, and I assume, as in all Federation relief for all disasters, that yes, it will be used for Jewish infrastructure and Jewish families, but will be used to help all in the community that is affected. We cannot come together to lift our spirits, to celebrate at this moment without taking a moment. So I ask that we just pause for a moment in silent reflection and prayer for better outcomes, for more rain, for more water, for the fires to be cooled, and the future to move forward as we rebuild. And it is, nevertheless, a commandment from our tradition to celebrate Shabbat. And so we move into our Shabbat service with whatever resolution in our hearts we have to reach out our hands. We celebrate with Bimbam, with Hine Matov, as we open our time together. Kabbalat Shabbat, the psalms and songs with which we welcome Shabbat. Only two of them tonight because we have a Torah service, so Lechuna Ranana and Shiru Adonai, pages 130 and 131, Psalm 95 and Psalm 96. To Lechadoti, pages 138 139. Stanzas 1, 2, 5, and 9. When do we start?
Well, as soon as I finish the first word, Shamor v'zachor v'timor v'echad. Hishmiyanu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad. V'shem v'tiferet v'v'ti la 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 la. V'kra v'kra kala. V'nei Shabbat v'kavila. V'echad echad odi v'kra v'kra kala. V'nei Shabbat v'kavila. Waiting for the word.
Likrat Shabbat.
Likrat Shabbat. Mihi mekor ha'berata. Merosh mikedem mitzucha. So ma'aseh v'mak Shabbat. La 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 la. Likrat likrat kata. B'nei Shabbat v'gavela. L'cha l'cha dodi. Likrat likrat kata. B'nei Shabbat v'gavela.
Page 139.
The word, everybody. What's the word?
Shalom Aleichem, page 142. This most well known of the settings of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Bottom of 143, underneath the line, together. And so we understand that ordinary people are messengers of the Most High. They go about their tasks in holy anonymity, often unknown even to themselves. Yet if they had not been there, if if they had not said what they said or did what they did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way we are now. Never forget that you, too, yourself, may be a messenger, perhaps even one whose errand extends over several lifetimes. Katsi Kaddish, page 144, we rise and we face east. Each other, but remain standing for evening light, for the nights in the sky. 148. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, V'chochma Poteach Sha'arim, V'tfuna Meshane Itim, Machalif Et Hazmanim, Mesader Et HaKochavim, V'mishmerotehem Barakia Kirtzono, Bole Yom V'Layla, Olel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Baruch Hu Shemo. Amen. standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 161 on the bottom. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God, and bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapo'eh sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, va'al Yerushalayim.
ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת ודורתם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה השמיים ואת הארץ
164. We rise and we face east. Seated, page 178. I'm going to save the substance of my Dvar Torah for when we have the scroll in front of us, and we'll invite any of you who would like to come forward to look at the unique feature in this week's Torah portion. It stands alone amongst all the portions in the entire Torah. Anybody know why before I go on? Good. Glad to hear that. So, but there is something that I always forget. And that is, this is the last portion in the book of Breshit, the last portion in the book of Genesis. And when you finish a book, and I almost always forget this, before the closing bracha, we shout out the words, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. May you be strong, may your strength increase. So many of you who are up here, I will ask you to lead the Aliyah. If I turn to you to do the closing blessing without having to, refuse to do it. Don't do it. Just don't until we say the words indicating that we have finished the reading of the book of Genesis. Even if it's not the last, we'll be reading from the very beginning of this portion, actually Genesis chapter 47, verse 28, if that tells you where we are. If it doesn't, that's okay. I wouldn't have recognized the particular citation either. So, the Cohens, including Talia, if you'll please, Talia, right? Yes. If you'll please come forward to help with the Torah scroll. And Ark opening, we continue with Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of Torah. Page 362.
Shalom.
I invite any of you who would like to, including you guys, to stay up here, to come up here to take a look at what is the unique feature of this week's portion. Please join us up here to look, and if you do, I'll also ask you to lead the Aliyah in a minute. But, we need all those papers, but I also need to open the scroll. Can you put this on just on the seat for the moment? And so, the beginning of this week's Torah portion is this column. There we go. Okay. So, I want you to think back in time. Talia Cohen, have you ever used a typewriter?
I know what it is, but I can't say I've used one.
Okay, Elaine, have you used a typewriter?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the tab button? Okay. Then do you remember, what's this called? The hard carriage return, right? What does a tab do? It moves it forward so that there's a gap, but it stays on the same line. What does the hard carriage return do? The whole next line. Okay, so in the Torah, do you see something that looks like somebody hit the tab button?
Yes, in the middle of
You do, right? That's called an opening. Do you see another tab here? Right. Do you see a hard carriage return? Okay. Do you see the difference, Talia? Okay. Every portion in the entire Torah begins either, well, it could be that it's the beginning of a book, in which case there's a whole, what's this? That's a whole big gap, right? That's the end of Genesis and the beginning of Exodus, okay? So, it could be the beginning of a book and opens like with a whole big space. Or it could have a tab, see the tab? Or it could be a hard carriage return. Every single portion in the entire Torah except for this one. Where does this week's portion begin? It begins right there. No, I'm actually wrong. I have the wrong spot. And that's the problem, and that's the point I'm making. There it is. That's right. See, I was looking here. There it is. No space at all. Uniquely then, this Torah portion is called, not open, but closed. It is called a closed portion. It is the only portion that is closed. The only portion that opens like this right in the middle. And in this portion, the rabbis are going to say, because this is a closed portion, something needs to get closed during this portion. They are taking the way that maybe it was even accidental, the way the scribal tradition began. After all, the Torah is laid out in a certain way, and then they divide it into weekly Torah portions later. So maybe it was just an accident. But of course, if God wrote the Torah, then it's not an accident, and therefore there has to be meaning in it. And this is the meaning that the rabbis squeezed out of the way that the words are laid out on the page. If the Torah portion is closed, something in this portion needs to be closed. Now what happens here? In this portion we read, and Jacob, the days of Jacob's life were, and it gives the number of years that he lived, 147 years. And then the time came for Israel, here it says Jacob, here it says Israel, we're talking about the same person, to die. And he called it, the death of Jacob takes place in this portion. So what closes in this portion? And the rabbis say, and we'll go into this in detail in Torah study tomorrow morning before, we do have Shabbat morning services tomorrow at 10:30, but Torah study is at 9:15, and we'll go into this in detail. But the rabbis say, what closed in this portion the eyes and the hearts of the Israelites were closed from the difficulty of being enslaved. But one of the commentators says, Umakshim hari ita. I got a problem with this. What's the chronological problem with that? Until Exodus. In fact, it says as long as one of those was alive, who went down to Egypt, the Egyptians did not enslave, right? The slavery begins only with the death of Joseph, long after the death of Joseph, not after the death of Jacob. Well, how do you resolve this contradiction? And this is, I think, one of the most brilliant spiritual insights. This is one of those moments that I think is historically ridiculous, because I think it's just an accident about how the words are laid out, right? But they derived great spiritual meaning from this. And this is what they said. Sure, the physical slavery didn't begin until after the death of Joseph. But this mental slavery begins with the death of Jacob, with the death of Israel. And then it says, and think about this in terms of where we live, who we are, how we live our lives. Egyptian culture began to creep in and influencing them without their eyes seeing or their hearts feeling it. And thus the spiritual, and until they were only able to see the superficial. And this is the essence of Galut. This is the essence of exile. This is the essence of slavery. What an amazing point. And how does it apply to us? And now, of course, how it applies to us in difficult ways, because all the time we say, if your eyes were open to what's really going on, and then you're going to get somebody's nutty conspiracy theory, right? The fires in California are because the DEI hires and the fire chief is a lesbian, and therefore she's obviously unqualified, and therefore you can't make this stuff up except somebody did. Can you believe it? Right? Or the fires are because of a deliberate global attempt to undermine America's infrastructure. These are the leaders of our country who are saying this. And so the narratives will differ when you say, open your eyes and see what's really going on. Different people are going to have different competing visions. Where can we rebuild common ground? Where can we find a place where we can really feel truth, where we can really see what is happening with each other, where do we have to go back to Walter Cronkite? Do we have to go back to one, or was that too biased in its own way? How do we work to roll the scroll forward in our lives, to find common ground, so that our eyes will open and our hearts will feel the essence of truth and look and see deeper than the superficial? That's the lesson that the rabbis derived, just from the way the words are arranged on the page. Thank you for being here. Please join me for the Aliyah, those of you who are up here. And once again, I'm identifying where we're going to start. If anybody wants to borrow my tool. No, okay. All right. You can go ahead, take it, and touch this very hard to find opening there with my talit. With my talit. All right. And now kiss the tzitzit. Close this. We'll try to find this for the cantor in a minute. Baruch Adonai Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher azar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
ארבעים ומאה שנה ויקרבו ימי ישראל למות. ויקרא לבנו ליוסף, ויאמר לו אם נא מצאתי חן בעיניך, שימנה ידך תחת ירכי, ועשית עמדי חסד ואמת, אנא תקברני במצרים, שכבתי עם אבותיי, ונסעתי ממצרים, וקברתני בקבורותם. ויאמר אנוכי אעשה כדברך. ויאמר הישבע לי, וישבע לו, וישתחו ישראל על ראש המיטה. ויהי אחרי הדברים האלה, ויאמר יוסף, הנה אביך חולה. ויקח את שני בניו עמו, את מנשה ואת אפרים. ויגד יעקב ויאמר, הנה בנך יוסף בא אליך. ויתחזק ישראל וישב על המיטה.
חזק חזק ונתחזק. חזק חזק ונתחזק. For once we remembered. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notei haTorah. Yishkoach. Yishkoach. Yasher Koach. Or Koyach. Koyach. It gets shortened in Yiddish. You sometimes will watch movies, Israeli movies with Orthodox characters, and they say Koyach to each other. And it's a very fast version of Yasher Koach, which means nicely done. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov. V'yimotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. Uyivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim ha'ela. O God who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, send your blessing and healing, your comfort and your hope to all those in need of healing. We mention at this time Harry Martyr, Cynthia Baylor, David Wetzel, Sonia Kaplan, Carla Gash, Marilyn Burnson, and Pilar Suraya. There are other names in the prayer for healing.
Barbara Rosenblatt.
Charles Messina and Gerald Tolbert. Dave James, Josie Durrell.
Larry Zaborski.
Lucy Cohen. Leonard C. Maya. Weiss. Sam Feld.
Sefer Torah to the Ark, we call forward Steve and Patty and Pam. Steve, if you'll come over to this side, please. And guys over here to help in a second. As we lift the Sefer Torah, I'm going to roll this a little. Actually, I may have to roll it back for next week. For tomorrow morning. But I'm going to roll this so you can see the end of Genesis and the beginning of Exodus. Please rise. Page 374, let us exalt the name of our God, whose name alone is exalted.
Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, ki niskav Shemo levado doveret v'shamayim v'yarem keren ve'amon tehila lechol hasidai libnei Yisrael anthropon. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki lekam tov natati lachem torati al tazovu et hayim lamagazitima v'tom teha ve'yoshar de'radeha darkei noam ve'hon netivoteha shalom Mashiachenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu
The bottom of page 586 as we continue immediately with Aleinu.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Everybody that's here with us tonight that came out in this bitter cold, and to those of you that are watching in your warm homes. Following services, please join us in the Weiss lobby as we will have Kiddush. Tomorrow morning there is Torah study at 9:15, and it will also be on Zoom, and there will be services tomorrow morning at 10:30. On Sunday, we are having our annual meeting where we will bring you up to date a little bit on the past year and a little bit on the coming year. And we will install our new board members and the board, and there will be a light brunch. If you haven't responded, you could tell Susan or me tonight that you're planning to come. And on Wednesday, January the 15th at 1 p.m. here, Debbie Rossman will lead us in a discussion of Michael Twitty's book. Usually Rabbi has the book here that he holds
Right
up.
outside.
It's out in the lobby. But Michael Twitty is the speaker for the MLK weekend, which Rabbi is going to talk to you about. And the big thing is, please save the date for February the 8th when we have our big fundraiser for the year. It is Top Golf. It's going to be in Atlantic City at the Ocean Resort. And there would be lots going on that evening. It's what do you call it, like a virtual golf. Yeah, it's not real golf, but there's all kinds of things you don't have to play, but if you'd like to, it's a lot of fun. And it should be a very good evening, and we hope that you will see us there. Again, that's February the 8th. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thanks. Couple more things. Tom brought them in for me. Thank you, Tom. I'm looking forward so much to to tomorrow morning, and to Sunday, and to the week in between. But next weekend, it's a long weekend, but I'd like to see a lot of you. And I'd like to see a lot of you. On the 17th, as you know, the service is at 7 p.m. This is our annual Martin Luther King service. It is our third annual occasion on which we, together with the NAACP, are giving out the Beth Israel NAACP Spirit of MLK Award to 6 high school seniors who have been selected by their schools, and they will read their essays. We have this amazing keynote speaker, my friend, and the award-winning author of The Cooking Gene, which won the James Beard Award, 2 James Beard Awards in 2018, and Kosher Soul, the book we'll be discussing this Wednesday, which won the National Jewish Book Award in 2022. It's subtitled The Faith and Food Journey of an African-American Jew. Michael Twitty is observant, Jewish, African-American, gay, and an award-winning author and expert on African, Caribbean, Southern, and Jewish cooking. So he will be giving a speech, the keynote speech to the students and all of us on Friday night. We're also joined by the inspirational choral ensemble of the Second Baptist Church of Atlantic City. There are 40 people in that choir, so we can't be outnumbered, we can't be outsung. It is a challenge to you to come, to bring friends. Please be with us for this very, very special service, and our own new Beth Israel choir, who was rehearsing earlier today, led by Cantor Portnoy, will be with us for this service as well. Then, because you'll be hearing from Michael Twitty but not having a chance to interact with him, a group of Beth Israel members, led by Deborah Rosman, are going to be on Wednesday and Thursday preparing in advance some of the recipes from Kosher Soul. And on Saturday night, January 18th, at 6 o'clock, we come together for Havdalah. For small plates, it's not a full dinner, but there is a cost to cover the ingredients. And a discussion with Michael Twitty called Kosher Soul, Food, History, and Identity, Tastings at the Intersection of African, Caribbean, Southern, and Jewish Experience. This is an amazing opportunity, and we are advertising this late. So I need you to do something tonight, and that is tonight, please tell Susan that you are coming to this on Saturday the 18th. Please bring friends. It is $20 a person. If somebody can't afford it, let me know, and I'll figure out a way to subsidize you. We need you here. We need this to work. Susan needs to know it in advance so she doesn't panic. So please help Susan Sikowski and her blood pressure and her equanimity and our planning process by letting her know very early that you are able to come on, and if you can't come, send 10 other people. So as I said, we had 2 RSVPs earlier today. We really need north of 40 to make this evening work. So please, 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 please change your. It's not going to be all evening. It's going to be 6 o'clock. We'll be done by before 8. I'll probably take him out to dinner afterwards for Indian food. So it's not a full dinner. It's tastings. It's small plate. It's not your full evening, but please come on January 18th. And
Rabbi?
yes.
We need to know by Tuesday.
We need to know by Tuesday, so that's why I'm saying, in addition, just tell her tonight, right? So so tell her how many. Tell her how many tonight as well. And finally, there are flyers available. This is going out as a standalone. The details and registration are now open for a potential Beth Israel trip to Israel in the summer in July of 2025. This is, I have to say, I've led 8 trips to Israel before. I have been very pleased with the group that I've used to do this in the past. This is no slight on them when I say that this looks like the most amazingly organized, best, highest level travel planning agency, J2 Adventures, that I have ever worked with. They are now the official travel agency of the North American Reform Movement. And just go on their website, take a look, even if you can't come on the trip, take a look at the details and find some friends to go. This can only go if we get 15 people. If we get 25 people, the cost will go down considerably per person. But please, this is not only an Israel vacation, go have a good time swimming, although there will be some of that, and world-class food, which when I was a student in Israel, because I'm old, it was like Israel specialized in falafel and shawarma and hummus, which they still have, and it's still good. But it's to those of you who have not been in Israel recently, sort of world-class cuisine. But also, this will involve cooking, volunteer cooking for some of the reserve soldiers. This will involve a tour near the Gaza envelope, a visit to the site of the Nova Festival. This is also a mission of solidarity and support for the people of Israel. It is not just an average kind of, what we used to do as an Israel 101 tour. This is also an expression of support. So I'm sorry to take so long with the announcements, but they are important, all of them. So the 18th, please tell Susan. Please take a look at the website. Please let me know even if you're thinking about the Israel trip, and I hope we can reach our 15 participants in order to go. So Shabbat Shalom. This is available for perusing as well at this time. I have a story. I know, if I had known it before, I'd forgotten, but I've been painfully made aware of a darker side to this man. But he still means a great, great deal to me. Many of you know that there was a widely covered, very famous assassination at my congregation in Buffalo when I was the rabbi of Beth Am in Buffalo. That was the murder of an OBGYN named Barnett Slepian. And I have shared with you the story before, how we got a phone call at 11 p.m. at night. The phone rings, Julie answers, it's the conservative rabbi who's Shomer Shabbat. And she knows it's an emergency because a conservative rabbi who's Shomer Shabbat would not be using the phone on Shabbat otherwise. He says, one of your congregants has just been shot. I step out of the home, we hear the helicopters searching for the murderer. It took them 5 years, they found him in France. I had done one bar mitzvah for Barnett Slepian's family. He had 4 boys. At the rehearsal for the next boy's bar mitzvah, his widow, Lynn Slepian, says the following to me. Peter Yarrow may be coming on Saturday. And so I was prepared for Peter Yarrow to come on Saturday. It's Friday night, and we're about 20 minutes into the service on Friday night. And there I am leading the service with our cantor, Barbara Osfeld, who you know quite well. And in walks an aging hippie with a guitar slung across his back. What am I, an idiot? He's bringing the guitar, he's sending me a signal. I have no idea what my sermon was supposed to be about that night. I gave about half of the sermon and then I changed the ending on the spot to make the sermon be about bullying. Because I knew that Peter Yarrow had just written an anthem against bullying. Without having exchanged a single word, he then rises from his seat, comes forward, pulls out his guitar, sings that song. Then he calls forward Cantor Osfeld and sings with the Slepian family there, Sweet Survivor, with Barbara Osfeld singing with him. He turns to her, he does a slight bow, he refers to her as my new Mary, and he stays until he and I are the last people at the Oneg, having spoken with and chatted with every single person there. I know there is a darker side to Peter Yarrow, but my God, this man meant a great deal to me. And I have to say, in person, as well as all those years of singing his songs. And so in honor of all those whose names we mentioned tonight, and in honor of Peter Yarrow, please join us as you may know the words.
Tell me why you're crying, my son. I know you're frightened like everyone. Is it the thunder in the distance you hear? Will it help if I stay very near? I am here, and if you take my hand, my son, all will be well when the day is done. And if
as the custom of our congregation, should you choose to do so, should you feel comfortable doing so, I ask that you rise when we call the name of a loved one so that we may know that you are here in mourning and memory. Then we will, as is the custom in most Reform synagogues, rise as a congregation as a whole for Kaddish Yatom, for the mourner's Kaddish itself. We remember at this time Linda Eskowitz, Abe Atlas, Jack Beal, Annette Black, Sarah Block, Lester Brickman, A. Louis Charney, E. Joseph Charney, Frida Dershow, George Duncan, Martin Goldberg, Mildred Green, Samuel Hanstein, Minnie Harris, Judith Hyman, Hannah Hernheimer, Saul Hoffheimer, Pauline Horn, Tom Kennedy, Sylvia Kintish, Raymond Laskin, Sidney Nissenfeld, Bruno Pallas, David Phillips, Shirley Pincus, Joseph Polland, Glenn Robb, Mervyn Roberts, Linda Rosenberg, Troy Schussler, Addie Schwab, John Stiggy, Betty Strauss, Eleanor Thierman, A.J. Trilling, Francis Trivis, M.J. Worthschafter, David Wallowitz. During this period of Shloshim, we mention Norman Fisher, Alan Levin, James Earl Jimmy Carter, Hannah Rubin, and Peter Yarrow. Is there anyone here to say Kaddish for someone whose name I did not mention? Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. As we continue with Kaddish, page 598, please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadosh shemei Rabba, v'alma tivrach yerotei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam homei homaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitfa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha v'richu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlam Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromah, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. May the source of peace, who send peace to all who mourn among us and wherever they may be, and all those suffering the pain of loss everywhere, and together let us say, amen. So that was, before we conclude, that was one of the more embarrassing verbal slips of my 39-year career. At the conclusion of the list, I automatically recited the prayer for healing. The healing may be for all of us and our hearts, as that was the wrong prayer for that moment. As we lead into Kaddish, may all of our loved ones be a blessing. May their memory live on through all of us. And my apologies for the slip before we began Kaddish. We conclude tonight with?
Well, I wanted, just in light of how you talked about Peter and what's going on in the beginning of the service, you referenced so many people are going through so much. I thought with just another sort of song for tonight, and we haven't done it since I've been here with you. I'd like to do it tonight. Page 636, Yedid Nefesh. Heart's delight, source of mercy, draw like a deer to stand in awe before you. Your love is sweeter to me than the taste of honey. You remind me.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you all. Shabbat shalom. Please join us.